Aloysius told her after she said, "You're called," to not say anything. So she stood there silently looking at him, and he finally said, "I'll do it and it'll be done well." And that's what happened. And she rang me to say the launch had gone really well, and about 6 months later she got a promotion. So that's Aloysius. Call on him in difficult circumstances. The other one I want to mention to you is Angel Florens, Florens. And she's the angel for friendship and unity. So she's very good with your children or your parents, or if you're having people to dinner and there's just a mixture of types, or you're having a meeting. I always call on her when I'm working in the corporate world and there's a whole team I'm working with, a leadership team, because they're very political often. And she gets people to somehow connect with something like themselves in the other person they don't normally get on with.
You got to accentuate the positive. Wow, I feel good. A little bit of feel good goes a long way.
You're listening to Karen Swain, teacher of deliberate creation, accentuating the positive, showing you a way to a better life.
Accentuating the positive, it's not just fad, it's sanity. Who in their right mind would accentuate anything else?
If you feel like that's what you want to do.
Hello and welcome to another show, Accentuating the Positive with Karen Swain. An angelic welcome to you all today. I have the beautiful Kayt Raymond with me, the angel lady. Welcome to the show, Kayt.
Thank you. I'm really delighted to be here.
And please remember, if you're liking our conversations, to share the shows and press the subscribe button and the bell for notifications. Or if you're on any of the audio platforms, share the love and leave a comment. I always love hearing from you. Now, Kayt and I have known each other. Kayt and I have known each other for a long time. I met Kayt, how many years ago, darling one?
It's got to be at least 20.
At least 20 years ago, through the Academy of Light, which I ended up facilitating with Rosemary and John Butterworth. And we used to gather every Monday night and we'd have a meditation and a guest speaker and some cups of tea and biscuits and chats and meet lovely people. It was a small gathering. I think the biggest gathering we had in those days was about 30 people. We'd have about a dozen of us most Monday nights, wouldn't we?
We did, and it was just a delight to see everyone, and everyone was on the same page, and we all incorporated the invisible world into our world. It was loving to be there.
Yeah. You know, back then I was in my 30s and most everyone in the group was 50 plus. And instead of being out at the disco, you know, raving it up with my generation, here I was hanging out with these older people.
I was not one of them at the time.
You being one of the youngest, of course, darling. I was in my late 30s. So, yeah, and I remember one night I was facilitating a meditation and everyone was asleep. Like this, and I looked around and I thought, what am I doing here? All these old people who are asleep. I should be with my generation. But to tell you the truth, in those days, it was the only conversation I found that, you know, like in that spiritual conversation, my generation were not having it. Today, it's different. There are so many people in their 20s and 30s that are loving this stuff. But back then, I couldn't find people of my generation wanting to have this conversation. So anyway, we had lots of fun. Let me read your bio, because Kayt's had an extraordinary life. Kayt Raymond worked as a strategist, change agent, mentor and coach in the corporate world for many years. She held executive positions in 2 multinationals before founding Shine International, a strategic consulting group based in Sydney and operating internationally. She has a BA from the University of Washington, Seattle, and an MBA from the University of New South Wales. As a corporate strategist, her life was profoundly changed by meeting a group of angels in 1996. Never considering herself an artist, Kayt began to paint with these angelic beings as they taught her how to commune and co-create with them. Kayt is now an angel communicator who receives words and paintings, and from her heart-centered knowing, she shares what she receives from the angelic realms. Her paintings are all in watercolor, and her style is spiritually inspired realism. Each angelic embeds their frequency into the paintings as they are being created. When we look upon these sacred embodiments, our hearts are drawn to the frequency of the angels we need. Kayt has had 3 exhibitions of her paintings in Sydney and in Melbourne. Kayt has been teaching angelic wisdom and sharing their knowledge since 2003, and she works with a specific group of angels who call themselves the Angelic Choir. She's been teaching in the US, UK, France, and Australia, and conducted a 7-day angel workshop at Findhorn, which is an amazing place in Scotland for people who came from all over the world. Kayt does angel consultations where you can bring your questions for the angels and she'll communicate their messages and answers for you. She currently posts on Facebook and Instagram the knowledge the angels bring to help us live our very best life at home and in the workplace, in good times and in bad. You can find Kayt's website at kaytraymond.com, which is spelled KaytRaymond.com.
MOND.com.
Sorry, MOND.com. Thank you for correcting me. I got through that with only one mistake. Right. So let's hear about how they connected with you. Because by the time I met you, they would have just been connecting with you back then. No, hang on, you met them in 96, so you'd already been talking to them. What happened when they came through?
Well, I'd been running this very big project in the Barrier Reef with 70 organisations involved, and I was the chairperson and strategist to bring them together to create a plan for the Barrier Reef. Now, it was a fabulous job, but what I was experiencing, going up to this great location and having such an interesting job, I was yearning for something more. I didn't know what it was, but I knew I didn't have it in my life. And so I had dinner one night with a friend who ran the Great Barrier Reef Marine Park Authority and said, just question me till I find out what this yearning is. And finally, at the end of dinner, I said, as a child and teenager, I had a connection with divine source, God, whatever you want to call it. That's what's missing. I need that in my life again. But I didn't know how to make the connection. So I thought, you hear these wonderful stories about how people go to bookshops and there's the book open on the floor, and there's a message. So I would go to bookshops. I didn't look on the shelves. I looked on the floor, first of all, to see if there was a message, and it didn't happen. And then finally, one day I was prompted to go down to Balmoral Beach because I love walking there. And I thought, I'll just pop in on Daryl, a friend of, I think too, Daryl Gunter, a public prosecutor and spiritual healer.
Yeah. Great combination.
And so he said, come and have a cup of tea. It's lovely you're here. And we were talking and he said, I've got an intuition for you. And I said, okay, what is it? And he said, you should meet my friend Susan. And I was like, that's it? And he said, yes. I said, well, where does Susan live? And he said, in the Blue Mountains. I said, don't go that far for my holidays, Anyway, we call it an angel arrangement. Susan arrived and she had been in Sydney. She was calling in 20 minutes for a cup of tea, and we met and we were talking. And so there was her young son, Daryl, and myself. Now, I was your straight corporate, you padded shoulders, you gold buttons, you take me seriously, I've got a solution for you kind of girl. And
I'm a corporate strategist.
Yes,
Don't
exactly.
mess with me. Don't give me any of that woo-woo crap.
That's right. And she said, Cassandra would like to speak to you. And I thought, uh-oh. And I looked at Daryl. I said, look, with respect, who's Cassandra? She said, Cassandra's an angel I channel. And I looked at Daryl like, please, no. And he was like, she's fine, she's okay. And I was like, so I was respectful, but I was extremely cynical. And so she explained she was a trance medium and that Angel Cassandra wanted to speak to me. And I said, look, I don't think I'm good enough as a person for an angel to want to speak to me.
Wow.
I just think in comparison to what I need to be, that I'm a bad person.
Wow.
And God knows where that came from.
Yeah,
you know.
interesting, isn't it? I
Interesting,
think
isn't
a lot
it?
of us
And
feel like that, but it brought it up. We don't know we feel like that
that's
sometimes.
right.
Yeah.
That's what it brought up for me. So she said, well, finally she convinced me this angel wanted to speak to me. And so I said, look, if I did this, how would I do it? And she said, oh, you drive up to the mountains, you'd bring your list of questions and a tape with you. Back then it was a tape. Right?
Yeah.
And I said, well, look, give me your number. And there was part of me going, oh, this is how this woman gets her sessions. You know, I was sort of really extremely cynical. And I thought about it for a few days. And then I thought, look, I've been yearning for something more in my life. This is an adventure. Think of it that way. And the other thing I didn't understand at the time was that yearning had been issuing an invitation to the angels to make contact. And I didn't understand that at that time. So I went up to the mountains and this being came into Susan's body to speak to me. Oh, and the thing that twigged it for me was that Susan said, you know, when you're speaking to the angel, I've left my body and I can't hear what you're saying. And in the corporate world, confidentiality is very important, right? And I thought, oh, so I get confidentiality. And that's what turned it the key for me, that I would have privacy talking to this angel. So off I went to the mountains, and so Susan's sitting opposite me and I'm not sure what to do. And she says, look, just turn the tape on when she speaks to you. And I went, oh, okay, right. So this very different voice, you know, like an older seer with an Aussie accent, believe this or not. Apparently the angel changes the accent for whatever, you know, country she's in, talking to the people. And so she said, we come to you in love, light and truth this day. Is it acceptable to you? And I was really shocked to be treated with such respect and accord. Yeah. And I went, yes, you know. And then she said, we know you have some questions, but we would like to address the energy you are at this point in time. But, okay, whatever that means. And then she gave me a readout in percentages of the health of each of my bodies, physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual.
Right.
So in some I got 98 and so on, and some I got, and the lowest score was in the mental body. And I had been quite negative back then in comparison to how I am now.
Okay.
And that, I heard that as truth. I thought, that's correct. That's truthful.
Right.
And then she went on to answer my questions after that. The most important question I had at the time, whatever it was, I didn't ask her because I thought, I'd like to form a relationship with this being. I don't think I'll ask her the most important question. Of the things we decided, so ridiculous. Anyway, I drove back to Sydney, or she told me to go and sit in the sunshine somewhere and just let the session integrate, because I'd had an hour and a quarter of divine light at my physical body for that time, and my body would have been affected. So to sit, and I remember sitting on a log watching the ants play around the grasses, you know, as I did what she told me to do. And then I drove back down to Sydney, and what I became aware of as I watched the white clouds and the cobalt sky was I didn't feel alone anymore, and that yearning had gone.
Wow. Okay.
So somehow the truth of the experience spoke to my heart yearning and said, it's okay. Angels are from God. So that's how I...
Now we're going to bawl. Now you're all tearing up.
I probably got mascara coming right down my
God.
Yeah.
Oh, how beautiful. I know. We're never alone.
No, we aren't.
We're never alone. Oh, yeah. Okay. We'll get through this. Okay. You didn't feel alone anymore. And then what?
So, you know, I went back to Sydney and I reflected on this. Oh, the one thing she said was, you know, you don't have to speak to Cassandra through this body, she said, poking Susan's body. You can call on Cassandra and I'll come. And I thought, oh, that's a good system. And so I went back to Sydney, but at that time I was extremely independent, and I was sort of, I'm fine by myself, thank you very much, even though you're an angel. And then when life got bumpy, I started to call on her. And what I found was that the things I asked help with, lucky breaks would happen, synchronicities would come together, solutions would arrive through other people. And I went, oh, so I can't see her, she's invisible, and she helps, and then it all turns up in the physical. That's how it works.
Mm-hmm.
So that was my first understanding, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then I went back to talk with Cassandra through Susan a couple of times, about every 6 months, right? And I'd started keeping a spiritual diary of a night. I just note things. And I noticed that when I looked back through, there were sentences that I hadn't written. There were paragraphs I hadn't written, finally whole pages I hadn't written or hadn't authored. And I thought, oh, this is a bit odd. So I went back to talk with Angel Cassandra through Susan. And by then they'd help me do all sorts of things. They'd help me solve illness. They'd help me in all sorts of ways. And I say they because on one of these visits, obviously there are a lot of angels in the room because, the air shimmers with excitement when there's a lot there, and sometimes it sparkles. And that's what it was doing. And I could tell there was a whole group of them there. And it was like they were saying, tell her this, ask her that. And Angel Cassandra in Susan's body turned her head and said, settle, like calm down, angels. I've got it handled here. Right. So on one of these, I said what came out of my mouth, and I think they channeled it through me, but I said, I feel such love for you all and such gratitude. I'd like to paint you. And she said, quick as a flash, and we could give you some words and it would be a book. And I went, yes. I got out in the car afterwards and I thought, why did I say that? I can't paint. So then I thought, oh, well, the best thing I can do is start lesson, but I was fretting about it. I knew it had to be in watercolor. And I had bought an angel painting from a woman who puts frequencies in with lots of layers of oil into paintings, right? So she phoned me up out of the blue because I'd been worrying about all this. And she didn't know what had been happening for me. And we went for lunch and she said, I have a message for you. And I went, oh, great. I thought, I wonder who we know in common. Oh, I wonder who we know in common.
Angel contact book.
Exactly. So I thought, I got my pen out, and my notepad. And she said, Archangel Michael said to stop fretting about the watercolor. There are 3 things you need to do. 1, get to know the pigments and what ones put together make beautiful colors and what ones make mud. And I thought, yeah, I could do that. Number 2, get in tune with us. Pray, meditate, be in silence, walk in silence. Get to communicate with us. I thought, yeah, I could do that. And then he said, number 3, put those 2 things together and paint us. And then the next day I had 3 calls. Someone phoned and said, I know someone who paints angels in watercolor. Someone else phoned and said, there's an angel exhibition on somewhere in watercolors. And the third person said, I know an art store where you can get watercolors, very good quality at good prices. And I thought, all right, enough already, I will go. So I went to the art store and there was a magazine with an advertisement for art lessons in a particular technique that I liked. And I rang the woman up and said, can I come and join your class and learn how to do your technique and do my subject matter? And she said, sure, what's your subject matter? And I said, angels. So that's how it started.
Wow, what a fabulous story. It is incredible how the angels just orchestrate everything, isn't it? Like bang, 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 bang. It's like, okay, I get it. Enough already.
Right. Okay, enough already. Yeah.
But I guess, having such a logical corporate strategist's mind, you really needed that push, I suppose, to like get it done. Otherwise you would have said, nah, this is just making it up.
That's exactly right. Because if it had happened where they just the way they presented themselves to me, in the air and showed themselves, or they came in dreams, part of me would have gone, well, it's all very nice, thank you, but no thank you. And this way, and they obviously knew that about me, And this way, it was impossible to ignore.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the thing that was really rang true to me was that Angel Cassandra's voice, when she spoke through Susan, as I said, it was a totally different voice. The sound of the frequency of truth in her tone, I have never heard any human sound so truthful before or since, and the truth in that turned the key to my heart.
I know. Sometimes when you hear channeling, or when we channel, it comes with such authority, no messing around, you know, and comes with such knowing and authority. And sometimes it can be very forceful. You know, when I was listening first to Esther's channeling the Abraham Collective, sometimes she'd be almost yelling because like the power of the energy frequency that comes through, sometimes it kind of makes you raise your voice or yell because it's sort of so forceful. It's forceful. Do you find that when you're channeling them sometimes?
It's very interesting. It makes me think of one woman came for an angel consultation, and looking at her, I thought, whoa, she's not from here. She's an angelic. Anyway, in the angel consultation, she had her questions, you know, and at one point, Archangel Gabriel came in to my body and spoke to her, right? Big presence, big voice. And anyway, he said, you're an angel. You're one of my angels. And she went, oh, and she started crying. She said, I love you. And he said, I know.
I know.
Anyway, she asked him advice about her work and what she should do and so on. He gave her really lovely advice. And then finally, at the end, he went, good job. Well done. Keep on.
No mucking around with Michael.
No, it was Gabriel.
Oh, it was Gabriel. Oh,
yeah, he's the leader. You know, you don't mess with him.
No mucking around with Gabriel.
No.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about Cassandra. So she's the one that came through Susan, but you've painted Cassandra, right?
I have. It's a lovely painting. And interestingly enough, I didn't paint her till about painting number 13. The first painting was Angel Aloysius, who's the pathfinder through difficult circumstances. And the difficult circumstances were, I didn't know how to paint, you know, and so he came first, right? So the order of how the angels arrive to be painted apparently relates to what quality I require at that time.
Right.
And Angel Cassandra came to be painted, she was painting number 13, and her quality is she helps us express our essence so that our essence shines forth and warms us and those we meet, and our natural charisma embraces others. Beautiful. And so she came through and she wanted to be painted in a Grecian style, lying on her side with a couple of birds and these flowing fountains and so on. And so I drew that, and these lovely, I said to her, you know, it's a strange sort of process. I say to the air, Cassandra, do you want strappy sandals or sexy sandals, you know? And then this beautiful pair of sandals, exquisite sandals, got drawn, and I went, they're exquisite.
Were they sexy?
No, well, yes, a bit actually. And I heard in my heart, divine design.
Divine design. I think I've seen your Cassandra. Let me think. I have a very good friend who I grew up with. We were babies together. Our mothers were best friends. Her mother was an international model. She's still alive. And I think that it was your Cassandra. That's her. If you put those, it's her. It's her. And she is exactly how you described her. She works as a makeup artist in the movie industry. She's at the top of her game. She's probably one of Australia's best. And she's such an angelic presence. She put me onto the Conversation with God books. I remember she just came over for a cup of tea, and she was all up in her drama. She was going through some drama and she was crying, and I'm making her cups of tea and stuff. And she said, you know, the only thing that's helped me through this drama are those books. And I said, which books? She said, the Conversation with God books. And I'm like, oh, great, more books to read. And they changed my life, those books.
Yeah.
So, yeah, she's been such an angelic presence in my life in so many ways. And I'm pretty sure it's your painting. It's the spitting image of what this girl looks like.
Well, Cassandra is physically very beautiful. And in the picture, she's got quite a large bust. And I remember when back when I was married, my husband went, do angels have big busts?
Now, let's talk about this. So, to many people who encounter the angelic realm through NDEs and other ways, like Howard Storm, you know, they appear as lights. He said they look like fireworks. So they don't have physical form. So why are they presenting themselves to you with such detailed physical form?
And they're very particular about that detail. Their intention is they want humans to understand that they are like humans in many ways, and that they're user friendly. And so they wanted
us to relate to them.
They want us to relate to them exactly. And they wanted to be in a physical body. They said they didn't need wings because they don't need them to move around. Humans thought they were bird-like many centuries ago, and that's why they gave them wings. So they wanted to have a halo to represent their divinity and a soul star above their head. You can just see the bottom of that one in the picture behind
Yes, so
me.
for people watching this on YouTube, we've got a couple of Kayt's paintings behind us on the green screen. And who's behind you, Kayt?
This is Angel Phryny, spelled P-H-R-E-N-Y, and she helps us be. She helps us be in the moment, be present. And she says, take a deep breath, let it out, and be present. Anyway, with Cassandra, she wanted to have a clip in her hair, right? She's got long blonde hair like you, and she had a bit of a fringe.
But it's wavy, right? It's not straight like mine.
It's sort of, undulates gently.
Yeah, that's what my friends is like.
Yeah, and she wanted this clip in her hair. And I went, Cassandra, you look like a 12-year-old. I don't want to do a clip in your hair. And anyone came in to think, what's she talking to the air for, And so it was clear she wanted the clip. Okay, I put the clip in. That's what the angel wants. Okay, I put the clip in. And then about 6 months later, and I suppose she thought, look, I'd figure it out. But I thought, whatever. And 6 months later, this clairvoyant friend walked in. She said, oh, Cassandra said to tell you that clips and pulling hair out of eyes is about clear seeing.
Oh, says me who's continuing doing it. Watch my shows. I'm continuing messing with this silly hair of mine. Clear seeing. Ah, that's so interesting. So she's pulled the clip out of her eye, the hair out of her eyes, because she's representing clear sight, clear seeing.
Yes, and she's very discerning. So you see, it helps with discernment and clarity.
It's so discerning. Just so interesting that it's so interesting that every minute detail of your paintings has such meaning. It's so interesting. So let's talk about the one behind you. You said that they, when I first met you all those years ago, you would tell me about them, and it fascinated me. And you'd say, they never want to be painted with the wings. Did you tell us what they said to you?
Okay, well, they just said, no wings, we don't need them. Humans have an old image of us. We get around without them. So we don't need wings. And then they were very simple, just the halo and the soul star. And the halo represents divinity, and the soul star, we've all got one, in our energy body. The soul star represents the body of knowledge we bring and our connection on high to God. And so if it's the angel of, as it is with Cassandra, of expressing our essence, then that body of knowledge will be around how we express our essence, how we live that quality. If it's the angel of kindness or wisdom, for example, we express wisdom, and their wisdom body of knowledge is held in the soul star above the head.
So the soul star is the body of knowledge that we bring from our soul or our oversoul that we're bringing to earth.
Well, that's their representation.
Right. Okay.
Yes.
And why? And the halo, what does the halo represent?
To represent divinity. They said that they wanted it to represent that they're part of God's workforce. part of their
Workforce.
choir. Yeah.
Corporation.
Yes,
Team.
exactly.
Mob.
Team. And so they are part of, I see it as though, as they are part of the distribution of God's qualities, because an angel radiates one quality, whatever the quality is, you know, that I've just mentioned, kindness or compassion, and an archangel radiates multiple qualities. So an angel is like the book in the library, and an archangel is like the library. They're very powerful.
Ah, interesting. Yeah. Yeah, because they're so specific. Let's just talk about the painting behind you and the specifics of it. So we're looking at a painting. I'll also pop it up on the YouTube. And she's dressed. She's looking very Hawaiian. She's got flowers in her hair. She looks like she's got a sarong that's tied at the front and flowers all around her. And she's got sailing boats in the background. And the sailing boats are quite specific. Do you want to tell us what's going on in this painting?
So one morning, I was living just near Mossman in Sydney, and I went for a walk very early. And I came around the corner, and there was a frangipani tree with lots of frangipanis on the path. And about 4 feet away, this angel stepped. It was like she stopped being invisible and stepped into visibility. And so it was a body of light in the shape of a human form. And I couldn't see what color her eyes were, but I knew it was an angel, and I knew she was saying to me, she communicated to my heart knowing, I want to be painted sitting in a frangipani tree with boats and water behind me. And okay, thank you. And then once she knew I knew what she wanted communicated, she just became invisible again. It was an extraordinary experience, very blessed experience. And I still can remember it second by second. And so I went home, wrote some notes, and then got out some tracing paper and started to do the drawing. Yeah. And what was very interesting was when I'm drawing, normally the other angels give me hints from a month or a couple of months before, and I put all the hints in a plastic A4 pocket, you know, till we've got all the hints. But with her, she appeared and said, this is how I want to be painted. And so when I'm doing the drawing, I'll do a line, and if it's not quite correct, I'll get in my heart, no, just erase this little bit of it. So, and I didn't question the process or ask how the process was. I just knew I got it somehow. And I finished the drawing. And what I came to understand was that the angel shines its light into my third eye, my heart, and my hands. And the energy goes into the painting as it's happening. So it becomes a sacred embodiment of the angel's frequency. And I knew there was this group up here who were working with me. And I thought, because I could see them light shimmering, yeah? And I knew they were angelics, and I thought, well, I think they must come in and help me draw, help me paint. I thought they were painters, yeah, artists. And then one day it was clarified that no, they're not artists. They are art directors. There are 27 angel art directors, and what they discuss between them and with the angel being painted is, does that line completely represent the quality of the angel being drawn or painted? So when I get, no, that's not right, erase it, it's in the communication between myself, the angel, and the group of art directors. I mean, I think that's hysterical that I have 27 art directors.
27 art directors. Quite a crowd comes with you, Kayt, quite a crowd.
Yeah, I mean, I feel deeply privileged and honoured to do this work. It's such a devotional practice, you know.
Oh, it's beautiful. So why did she want the specifics of the frangipani and the boats in the background? What's the meaning of those?
Often when we're on the water and we're becalmed, or we're just sitting on a yacht, it's easy to simply be. Or if we're sitting by the water, it's easy to be there and really be there.
Yeah.
And just be. simply be. And so she wanted to communicate this notion that we can be, but we get so busy. And so it's to take a breath and simply be.
Yeah. Well, I have to say the painting's quite busy with all those flowers, but
Oh, yes. And they all have little personalities. That's what I've discovered. Each of the frangipani has a personality.
really, so they're like little, so they're like the sort of the fairy kingdom. They're like little beings. Each flower is like a little being.
Yeah. And it's important that I stay in my heart and am in the space of love as it comes through, so the frequency comes through appropriately.
Yeah. And what about this beautiful angelic being behind me? Who's she?
This is Angel Lif, L-I-F.
Angel Lif.
Yes, and that's some language. In some language it means leaf. They sometimes have me, sometimes angels, this one, for example, has worked with the spirit of the trees, helping them grow and blossom for centuries and not taken a name. And what she also does is she helps us adapt to difficult circumstances. So she said she wanted to be called like a leaf and to look it up in Latin and Greek, and she would choose the spelling. So I looked it up in Latin and Greek and she chose Lif, L-I-F. And, you know, she's in the painting, she's got little blue wrens around her and she's just simply looking. And of course, around, you can see the blossoms in that, And she,
And she's got gum nuts
in,
because this is just a section of the painting. She's got gum nuts around.
It's more a bud to flower.
Oh, right. Yeah, she's beautiful. Yeah, she's gorgeous. Absolutely beautiful. I dressed appropriately for her today.
The colours wearing very well with the background.
Wearing her colours. Such a Libran. And, you know, years ago when we were chatting, I remember you said to me, and then you said to me, well, because I saw you recently came up to, because you're living in the Blue Mountains now.
Yes, isn't that funny?
Isn't that funny? Which is about an hour and a half west of Sydney. And they're not enormous mountains like Switzerland, but it's definitely colder up there than in winter than Sydney. You know, I remember you were talking to me one night over a cup of tea and biscuits at the Academy. And you said that your painting had really changed. Do you want to tell us that story that you were telling me?
Yes, because, you know, I was rather tentative. It was new for me. I wanted to, you know, get it right. I wanted to get it right. And so I was a little hesitant, really. And then after a while, it just began to flow and I was much more trusting and went with the flow. And then they told me that they were holding back my fear so that I could flow in the way that I naturally can.
I loved that. It so spoke to me. The angels are holding back your fear. Like the fact that they can do that. I remember thinking, oh, wow.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's extraordinary, I think.
You know, as much as they can do these things, it is our responsibility ultimately they can hold back our fear while we're painting, but then we have to deal with the fear for the rest of the work that, you know, for the rest of our lives, you know, for the fear of all the rest of it. And
we have to call on them. They don't assist us without being asked to, because we live in a free will zone. They can't just go, oh, you need to fix this or need to fix that, we'll do it. They can't do that. They're not allowed under universal law. So we have to ask, will you assist me with this? And so, for example, if I wanted assistance to be wise, I would call on the angel of wisdom. I don't need to know the angel of wisdom's name. I just need to know the quality. And what my guardian angel will do is connect with the angel of wisdom, bring her or the frequency of that angel to my soul body, and the frequency of wisdom will float into my spiritual, mental, emotional, and physical bodies. And after a while, I'll start to be more wise. So that's how the system works. And I should mention that the guardians, we have 4, not 1. Everyone thinks we have 1 because there's one behind us. You've got one of yours behind you. I've got one of mine behind me. And they're behind us and up a bit. And the other three sit out in our soul body and guard the purposes we came to live out, the truths we came to live, and the projects we particularly want to do. And that's what they do. They guard what we came, our plan, really. And there are little holograms of these things, of the truths and the qualities in our energy body. And one of the guardians is the guardian. If we call out to God, that guardian takes the message to God, brings the message back and feeds it into our heart knowing, and then we know what to do, or we feel better about what we've been concerned about because God has answered to our heart.
Or an aspect of God. It seems that there are many different aspects of the divine that are specific, just like you're talking about, that are specific for specific energies and frequencies and jobs. So, I mean, we're all an aspect of the divine. So when we talk to
Indeed.
God, we're talking to, I mean, we could talk to we could talk to angels, higher self guides, ETs, you know, multidimensional beings. They're all God. We're all God. Or we could talk to you or me or our neighbor. We're still talking to God. But, you know, it's just like listening to your work, you know, they have these, it's so specific. That's what struck me when I met you, that how specific it is, how specific they are with your painting and with each job. So how many angels have you painted already?
I'm up to number 40 now. That's Archangel Uriel, and I'm just about to start with him. So there are 77 beings in the Angelic Choir. I'm to paint all of them.
Right.
And I'm about halfway because, you know, they've added on a few. So there's about 78 or 80 paintings to be done, and I'm halfway, really.
So you'll be here for a while, Kayt.
I'll be here for a while. And I'll be painting up a storm.
You got some work to do.
Yes,
mind you, you're not doing as much corporate work these days as you were back then. So you've got more time to sort of
I've got more time. I'm still doing corporate work, but not as much. And I've had a couple of interesting experiences in the corporate world where I was working in a big company, in a multinational in Brisbane. And, you know, because I travel a lot with the corporate work. And this person who was a temporary contractor came in to speak with me on the job I was doing. And she said, she had an angel pin on. I said, oh, you like angels? And she said, oh, my brother died and I always wear this pin to represent him. But she looked at me and she said, you know about angels, don't you? And I said, yes, I do. And she said, well, you know, I had the alternative. My agency gave me two contracts and I had to choose which one to take. And she said, the other contract paid more than this contract, but I knew I had to take this one because there was someone I had to talk to. And she said, you're that person. So we talked about angels, which was lovely.
She was pretty switched on.
She was pretty switched on. And the other time I was troubleshooting in a jail, and I was doing a series of interviews with the warders. And this woman came in, she was a warder. She sat down and she said, you know about angels, don't you? And I said, how confidential is this?
Yeah, you said we were confidential.
And she said, very confidential. I said, fine. I said, yes, I do. What do you want to know? And she talked to me for a while. And then she said, we have an opening day coming up soon where the families are coming to visit the inmates. And we want to make sure that the weather is fine and that there's a happy vibration for the day. Will you ask the angels to assist us? I said, certainly. So it's a fine day and a happy day. She said, yes. I said, right, I'll ask. And it was, she was asking too. It was a fine day and a happy day.
Oh, beautiful. Beautiful. You know, just back on the way that they've assisted you on your personal journey, assisted you to assist them, to help them come through better. You had an experience recently where that happened. Do you want to talk about that?
I'm happy to. So I went down to the local shops, and the shops are in like a U shape, and in the middle is a parking area, concrete parking area. And I stepped off the pavement near the shops onto the concrete and was looking over towards my car and didn't notice the concrete bollard that the tires come up to, and I tripped. And I had been in a situation of falling, feeling totally out of control. And I put my right hand forward to break the fall and broke the right wrist and the right cheekbone, and my other hand doubled up underneath me. So this has been the situation, and I couldn't move. I couldn't get up, and no one was in the car park, and so I started calling for help. And two men came and lifted me under their arms, put me on a chair in front of one of the shops, and then a woman miraculously arrived with a pillow, and we put my hand on the pillow, and then the ambulance took me to Cassandra Hospital, and I had a plaster put on, and couldn't leave the house for 5 weeks because the vibration of I couldn't even be a passenger in a car. The vibration of the car would have moved the bones. Anyway, while I was here, and it's an important story to introduce a couple of angels to your viewers and listeners, because I didn't, 5 weeks alone. My friends came and visited and so on. I couldn't cook for myself. There was the potential to feel a bit down, and I didn't want to do that. That was not my choice. So I called on two angels. One is the angel for encouragement, and her name is Angel Enthari, Entharri. And she works closely with the angel for victory, Angel Victoria. And her quality is she helps us feel victorious within. She helps us feel we've accomplished something. So I would call on them each morning and say, please help me be uplifted today, but please help me feel I've accomplished something today. And that happened every single day. There was not one time when I felt slightly depressed or down. They really assisted me. So particularly in this time of COVID, I wanted to share that with your audience. With people. Angel, if you can't remember the names, Angel for encouragement and Angel for victory.
Victory and encouragement. Have you painted those two?
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
Beautiful. Okay, call on the angel for victory. Yeah, you can just call on the essence rather than the name, the angel for victory and the angel for encouragement.
And your guardian will get them. Will get the quality for you and wrap you in the quality. So now let me see, back to, And so after 5 weeks, I was taken and we had an x-ray and the bones had moved. And so I had to go into hospital, have a plate and screws put in. And, my concern as an artist was, would I be able to paint again?
Exactly.
And
Your
it was
hand.
a serious concern. Anyway, so I kept, the interesting thing, Karen, was that, I've always been a bit of a doer rather than
a little bit of a doer, darling.
That's putting it kindly, right? Love my list for the day, And
the lady with the list.
And so here I had been in a situation where there was nothing to do.
Yep.
And I had to learn to rest. And I literally phoned a girlfriend, Jan, who's a great gal. And I said, do you know how to rest?
I think, didn't you say, do you know what I do to rest? And she said,
I probably do. I probably did say, do you know what I have to do to rest, And she said,
Don't do anything.
I know all about resting. I'm good at resting. I said, really? How do you do that? And she told me this wonderful story, which was that she and her sister in their 20s, they're both pharmacists, and their respective husbands went on a trip around the United States to the national parks. And they'd get to the new place, and the beautiful view and so on, and pull up their camper van. And Jan would go and get the director's chair, sit with a glass of wine and a book and just look at the view and enjoy. And the sister would get the whisk out and clean the caravan, right? The van.
Right, yep.
The sister became known as Mrs. Whisk, and Jan became known as Slack Alice. And to this day, her grandkids call her Granny Alice.
Slack Alice.
Slack Alice. Don't you love
I
it?
need to call Slack Alice to teach me how to rest.
Yes.
Okay, so one would think that a woman surrounded by angels and so loved and so protected, why would you have such a hideous accident that would damage your right hand, the very hand that paints the angels? Why did it happen?
Sometimes gifts come in extraordinary ways.
Exactly.
And the long term of this has been a great blessing. But at the time, I didn't think so. I thought, well, this is a nuisance, really. But okay, I'm here with this. I just have to go with it and find out what the lesson is, if there is one. Now, we all do this, or many of us do this. That's not true, or we all do it. But many of us, as we're growing up, childhood, teenage years, adulthood, we have difficult stuff happen. And we want to protect ourselves and be safe. That's reasonable. And so I was similar, and I didn't know this, that I had put all these controls in place, mentally and emotionally, so I'd be protected and safe. And it turns out that the angels had been concerned, because it's not possible to go up to another level of light if you're clamping it down with all these controls. And I vividly remember, as I had been falling, the feeling of not being in control at all. And I could feel just my eyes doing movements as I was, in that position. And what the angels said to me was that because those controls had literally broken and set asunder, as they would have said once upon a time, it allowed me to go up to another level of light, to incorporate more divine light into my being. So, I experience this now as a great blessing. And I don't recommend that methodology for others.
There's other ways to let go.
There's other ways, However, what it's encouraged me to do is I now meditate more, to look after my invisible body, to bring more light to me, and I do more walks, more integration walks, to integrate the light into my physical body, so the physical body benefits,
Yeah.
So yes.
And you've learnt to rest, darling.
And I've learned to it's
an ongoing process.
It's a project. It's a project. It's an ongoing process. The other day I was sitting at my desk and I thought, I've got nothing to do at the moment. And then I thought, I can relax. I can rest. It's like this new discovery. I mean, I'm sure some of your listeners and viewers are laughing at this. But,
absolutely. I had one of our tribe in the Inner Sanctum said that she's got like 5 planets in Virgo. We were laughing the other day. She's like, I get stuff done. I'm a doer. Like with all this sort of Virgo energy, the perfectionist energy. Look, I get it, because I've got that Virgo energy too, Virgo moon, that perfectionist energy. And as I've, expanded on my spiritual journey, especially when you're doing things like editing and, and making things, putting up videos and designing stuff, you can get a little overzealous with the perfectionism that it has to be right, it has to be right, it has to be right. And I'm constantly hearing myself say to myself, it'll be fine, just let it go. It doesn't have to be perfect. Like just that letting go of control.
Yes,
just like,
indeed.
It'll be fine, nobody notices but you. Like it'll be fine. And it's the same when people come over. I like scrub the house for days and everything has to be sparkling clean. Nobody will notice, but no. I've got that sort of perfectionism thing, and it's control issues. That is control issues.
I remember saying to Angel Cassandra at one point, it does concern me that I'm a bit controlling. That too was kind, and she said, people who are controlling get things done.
They do.
I think that was meant to make me feel better. I hope it makes you feel better. It
Look,
did make me feel a bit better on the time.
That controlling perfectionism does make for beauty. Look, I have my sister-in-law's like this, another best friend, another Karen, she's like that. They're both creative people. One's a designer. And what she does is beautiful, because she does attend to every detail. If it's not right, she does get a little like, no, it has to be like this, but it does create unbelievable beauty. And like my sister-in-law, she's like your friend, not the Alice
Jan.
one. Yeah, she does not. She'll go to a holiday place and she'll unpack and everything will be put away, like stacked beautifully. And then once the unpacking's undone and there's nothing to do, she'll start cleaning, like even if it's spotlessly clean, like she can't sit down for a minute. But I have to say, her house is always beautiful and immaculate and everything in its place. She's the sort of person that will wash the dishes before she'll sit down to eat the dinner. And I've heard my brother many times screaming, just sit down, for God's sake.
Wow.
But so there is, the controlling perfectionism things do get done, and things are often beautiful and in order. And I think that that's really helped with your painting. It's what I'm trying to say, because
I
your
think
paintings
so.
are beautiful.
Thank
And
you.
they're absolutely, such perfection, such detail with all of them. And watercolor is not easy,
No, it's the hardest medium.
Mm.
And with every painting, because the frequency that comes through is subtle, yet I can feel it. By the time I've got to the end of the painting, I don't want to end the painting.
Mm.
I'll find little things that need to be done,
Yeah.
And I remember one angel saying to my heart, knowing, enough now, my dear.
Yeah, enough now.
Enough
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
And I wondered if your viewers would like me to mention a few angels that they might find helpful.
Definitely. Yeah.
Okay, so the first one I painted is an angel called Angel Aloysius. Now, even if you don't remember his name, his quality is pathfinding through difficult circumstances. And he is an extraordinary angel in that, I'll give you an example. A girlfriend of mine rang up and she said, she works for an advertising agency. She said, look, I'm in strife. I've got this contractor and I've got a big launch of a product coming up, and the contractor's not doing what I want. Who do I call on? And I said, Angel Aloysius, the pathfinder through difficult circumstances. And her name's Larissa. And what she did every morning when she got in her car to go to work, she'd sit with her hands, her palms turned up behind the wheel, and she'd call on Angel Aloysius and thank him for helping her to get the project moving that day and the contractor focused. And she called me about 6 weeks later, and she said that Aloysius hadn't done it for her. He had walked beside her, and during the day he would give her a vision of what needed to be done, and then he'd give suggestions to her heart knowing about what steps to take. And then it got to a point where he said, you have to really get the contractor to knuckle down. And so the day came when, and she was given the words, and she said to the contractor, now, we can do this the easy way or the hard way. It's your call. And he looked a bit surprised at a very serious tone. And she said, now, the easy way is you do what I ask you to do and the launch goes well and you'll get more work from us. The hard way is you don't do what you're being asked to do. You'll never get another job here and I'll probably get fired. Your call. And Aloysius told her after she said your call to not say anything. So she stood there silently looking at him, and he finally said, I'll do it and it'll be done well. And that's what happened. And she rang me to say the launch had gone really well. And about 6 months later, she got a promotion. So that's Aloysius. Call on him in difficult circumstances. The other one I want to mention to you is Angel Florens, Florens. And she's the angel for friendship and unity. So she's very good with your children or your parents, or if you're having people to dinner and there's just a mixture of types, or you're having a meeting. I always call on her when I'm working in the corporate world and there's a whole team I'm working with, a leadership team, because they're very political often. And she gets people to somehow connect with something like themselves in the other person they don't normally get on with. And without exception,
beautiful.
I have parents and children saying to me, you know, I'm getting on better with Dad now. I don't know why. And the parent has called me and said, what do I do? And I've said, call on Florens. And in the corporate world, when I do projects and call on Angel Florens, people say, we've never had our team work like this.
Work so congruently. So
we work so well together. We're such a good team. Let's make this the benchmark of how we have to work together in future. And I think you knew how many of us were working on this, you know. And the other angel I'd like to suggest is Angel Nathaniel. Nathaniel, his quality is integrity in action. Now, what that means, you know, there are times you might be a saint, Karen, and not have this happen to you, but
oh yeah, such a saint.
there are times when we think, oh, I don't want to start this. I'll put it off to Monday. And we just actually don't want to get into whatever it is we're supposed, whatever the task
darling, I think that all the time.
is.
I've got a project that I've had on hold for a year now that I keep thinking, oh.
Nathaniel.
Okay, Nathaniel.
In action, what I find is this. I call on Nathaniel and then I take the first step.
Mm-hmm.
And pretty soon I'm in the groove, I'm feeling masterful, and everything goes well. And I get whatever it is done.
So like
and
doing your taxes.
What?
Like doing your taxes.
Well, yes. And
Yeah.
I have a friend in Canberra who calls on Angel Nathaniel when she's doing her tax, literally.
Yeah,
and she calls him the tax angel, which I don't think could go down too well with him, but
he doesn't mind.
He doesn't mind, And so I, for many years, thought, I love Nathaniel's quality.
Yeah.
Right? However, he finally explained that actually what he does is he's a connector. He connects our small self with our higher self and plugs us into our higher self. And we're in the groove and we're feeling this extraordinary, lovely quality. And the quality we're feeling is our own quality.
Is flow, yeah.
In flow, in integrity, in action. So that's another one that your listeners may enjoy.
And have you painted those ones that you've just told us about? Beautiful.
Yeah. And there's a publisher, sort of considering a proposal at the moment, and I'm allowing for traction and momentum, and maybe in 18 months' time, I'll have some news. So we'll see.
About what? About another book.
A book.
So have you got your first, you were asked to write a book right at the get-go. Have you finished it? Have you done it?
Oh, yes. That's what's with the publisher being considered at the current time.
Oh, so it's not actually out yet, so we can't talk about it. Oh, okay. All right. It's taken a couple of years, Kate. It's taken us a few years, yeah. People might wonder why it's taken me so long to put you on the show, considering I've known you for 20 years.
Oh, well.
But we've been on the go slow. But anyway, things are ramping up now. And this is so needed. This is so needed, this work. It's always needed. It's just more needed at the moment as we go through these extraordinarily transitioning times.
And I'd just like to thank you for what you do on behalf of myself and the angels.
You'll make me cry.
So that's what I was asked to say to you. So,
darling, yeah. Well, I want to thank you too. You're all a puzzle piece in the human design, aren't we? We're all doing our bit. But I've spoken to so many people who talk about angels, and they all say the same thing: remember to ask, remember to ask, remember to ask. And what I like about your work, what I love about your work, is that it's so specific, so many specifics. You can get really specific in a particular quality that you're feeling that you're lacking, and you can ask the angels for that particular quality. It's so beautiful. I'm going to be calling on Nathaniel, I tell you, soon. I've got quite a few things that I put on delay and think I'll do it later. I get in trouble like that because emails come in, and if I don't answer an email straight away, I'll put it in the do it later list, and sometimes do it later is like a year later. It's terrible. I'm like, oops, forgot to answer that email. But anyway, Nathaniel, get him working.
Yes.
Okay, so the Angelic Choir, I think you've told us about what the Angelic Choir are. 77, you said, in the Angelic Choir.
77 beings, 10 of whom are archangels and the rest are angels. So I've painted 5 archangels. Let me see, I've painted Michael, Ariel, Gabriel, and Raphael, and I'm just about to start Uriel.
I can hear people saying, where can they see your work? Are they all on your website, or there's only
some of them are on? Yeah, there's about 14 or 15 pictures on the website, and if they're not the whole picture, they're part of the picture. And you'll get the frequency in any case from part.
And how do people, how do they get your paintings? How do they?
There's a request form, and they simply write to me, and it gives both my phone number and email address. And again, as you said before, the website is KaytRaymond.com.
And so they write to you and you sell them a print?
Send them. Yes, I do.
Oh, okay, that's how it works. Okay, I've got a question about, we know what we're going through now. What are the angels saying about the current world circumstances? And is there an army of them helping shift the frequencies for humanity at the moment? Like, have you had any sort of chats with them about the army of angels? Because you're working specifically with those 77, but have they sort of talked to you about how the angelics are helping this world?
Well, the 10 archangels in this choir, the Angelic Choir, link to so many choirs of angels.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And what they are doing is working with individuals and groups around the world to help them step up to be more light-filled, because that's what the earth needs at this time, and that's what the community of people on the earth require. And so their push at this time is to encourage us to become more light-filled and act from a loving heart. And of course, they're doing their best to support each and every one of us to do that, and to call on them and ask them to help, because there are times now where, because of the challenges COVID has really revealed about things we need to deal with and address, and even just being able to be alone, for example, as many people are in isolation and so on. There are many issues that people need the angelic assistance for, and to please ask, because they're willing and able, and there's many of them to assist.
Absolutely. You know, I hear so many people complaining about what's happening, like, my poor old grandmother is in the nursing home and I can't go and visit her and she's all alone there, or, you know, people are isolated. But rather than complaining about it, you know, employ some angels.
Yes.
Just like you said, when you were alone, that you asked angels, or especially when you had broken your painting hand and you're all alone and healing, and you didn't want to feel sorry for yourself or forlorn, you called on specific angels. People can actually ask the angels to help people that are alone at this time feel like they're not alone and feel comforted. And, you know, we can ask for others, right? Even
Yes, we can. And how that works is our guardian speaks to the guardian of the other person, and between them they call on the particular angel for that person. And I should mention to you the other thing that happened, which is lovely. I couldn't paint for most of the year.
Yeah, because of the wrist. That was the next question. So you've read my thought. Good on you.
Yes, we're clearly in sync here. And it came to a Friday one week, and I said aloud, I'm painting on Monday. And at the current time, I'm painting Angel Gain, the angel for positive abundance, money, and gain in many forms. And you've seen where it's up to now. And it's Angel Gain sitting on rocks beside a waterfall, and the waterfall means continuous flow. Yeah. And so I got his painting out, and I gingerly started to paint, because I didn't know how much flexibility the hand would go from side to side, and it was working. And normally when his frequency comes through, it's a quiet, gentle frequency. However, this day, it was much stronger. And it turned out that he had invited a group of his friends because they'd noticed what had been happening with me. So this extraordinary pipeline of love happened. It was extraordinary grace. It went on for 3 hours. And it was like they were saying, welcome home. Painting's your home. The team's here. We're working with you. Let's work together now and complete the painting. And I have to say, Karen, 3 hours of the intimacy of potent divine love is the peak experience of my life.
Absolutely. You know, David and I did a bit of a road trip and went up to see Kayt in the Blue Mountains a couple of weekends ago. If any of you follow me on Facebook, you'll see that's the day that it snowed for us. So David and I, like two teenage children, we run outside and go, oh my God, it's snowing. And that's when I posted on Facebook with me screaming and yelling because it was snowing. It was at Kayt's place. And you showed us Angel Gain, and you haven't finished him yet. No. I wanted to show people Angel Gain, but we'll have to wait until he's finished. And he's just extraordinary, just so much detail again in the painting, and all of it spoke to me. It just spoke to me about gain and abundance. All of it spoke to me, every single detail. It's incredible, the details in the painting. And I suspect that you've had that experience of that divine love, as you said, the peak experience of your life up until now, because you through the accident, you have let go a bit more so that you could embody it more, like that. You've had that upgrade.
Yes.
So
yes.
That's just so beautiful.
It was extraordinary. And I should mention also that picture, we don't have to put on the internet because it's on the website. The one behind me.
Yeah.
Angel
What was
Freny.
Her name again? Freny.
Freny.
Mm.
Phreny.
Yeah.
Yes, Angel Gain is extraordinary. And he's currently asked me to, he looks beatific, his face at the moment. I've done the face since you were here. However, it's a bit young. He says, no one will believe that I do what I do with that young face. So yes, they're so specific, exactly. So now I have to age him, right, and make him look older, more mature and stronger. And he'd like some more shading and, get this, some pre-lines. Now, pre-lines are hinting at real lines to come.
How do you do that?
I don't know. I think I can do. He might get a few wrinkles. We might.
Because I have to say the painting's quite big, and his face on the painting is quite small. So he's like asking you to do these tiny little details.
It's true.
It's so interesting.
The original paintings are 55 centimeters by 75, which is about, I don't know what the translation into inches is.
So how long does it take you normally to do one painting?
Look, it varies because there are many layers of paint to bring many layers of light. I've done one Angel Lumiere, the angel for radiance, who lights our next step, yeah? It took 14 months, and there are hundreds and hundreds of layers of paint on the painting. To look at it, it's quite light-filled, the painting. And of course, she's the angel of radiance, and she said, well, I can't have shadows. And it's like, I can't even draw you if we can't have some shadows. That's how we get shapes. Anyway, it's worked out okay, but that took 14 months.
Wow. And what's been your quickest one?
A month.
A month.
Or 6 weeks. No, 6 weeks actually.
And were you surprised?
That was 7 to 8 hours a day on it.
Oh, okay. But were you surprised how relatively quick that one came?
Yes, and that was in the first year that I was painting them.
Right.
And so I've been reflecting on that recently, thinking, well, maybe I can do it more quickly in the coming time because I've got 40 more to do,
I know.
And I had the loveliest experience, I have to tell you, because it's effectively doing a portrait of each of these angels.
Yeah.
In the context in which they request. I had come up here when I'd begun painting. I'd come up for a holiday, and someone said to me, you should go and see the young, gifted clairvoyant Vanessa, whom I can't find now. But I thought, no, I've got plenty of angel communication. I don't need to see Vanessa. But then on the morning I was going back, I thought, hey, what the heck? And I was painting Angel Florence, right, the angel for friendship and unity. And I rang this young woman and said, could I just drop by for a session? She said, sure. And I walked into her place, which was at the bottom of the mountains. And she said, oh, you've brought a crowd. Referring to the angels who were with me. And I said, and I was getting used to it by then, that people would make comments. The seers could see that there were lots of angels around. Yeah. So I sat down and she said, why are you here? And I said, I'm not sure really. I'm painting Angel Florence and I'm wondering how she feels about the painting. And she said, well, how do you feel? And I said, well, I think she really likes it. I feel she's happy. And she said, yes, that's what I'm getting. She's really happy. And then she said, they're giving me this image to share with you. And there's a long line of angels standing one behind the other around a city block. And they're all saying that they're standing in line waiting for their portraits to be painted. Isn't that encouraging?
Well, it's
I was like,
encouraging, but it's also like, God, I've got some work to do.
but at that moment, I took it as encouragement.
Yeah, not that they're in that realm. There is time nor space, so waiting is a very three-dimensional concept. But as you say, it's relatable. Yeah, they're waiting in line, waiting for their portraits. That is so beautiful. That's so beautiful. So, are you going to do the book? Are you going to do cards of them, or
oh yes,
where are you going to put them on? I think they need to be everywhere.
Well,
phone cases, cards, fridge magnets.
It's a great idea. And of course, once the publisher says yes, and I've been given the phrase allowing for traction and momentum for the publisher to get it together, then it can happen.
You might need a new publisher, honey.
I don't know. We'll find out soon.
How long have you been waiting for the publisher to press the go button now?
Well, not long, just a month or so.
Oh, okay.
And they, they take their time. It's a different time now for publishers because so many bookshops in the States have closed. However, the good thing is that, the book suppliers online are experiencing an 80% rise in purchases. So
yeah. I heard a channel, I can't remember which one, I speak to so many people say, this is one of the projects I've got on hold, which I have to ask Nathaniel to help me with, and that's the books that I put out, and say that books in the future will be important because if we do have a 3 days of darkness, which many people have talked about, a micronova or something that knocks out the system, the grid, we've got, and the internet's down, then we've got our books or we've got our cards or,
And they're so lovely to hold, and the colors are beautiful in the cards, and the books are such companions, whether we're sitting up in bed or on the lounge or by a fire or on a bus. They're great.
It's lovely. It's lovely to have the art too, the art on the walls, or just to be surrounded by the art without having to actually open your phone or a computer, just to have the image and the frequency, something that you can look at. Yeah, beautiful. Oh, darling one, there's so much more we could talk about. I could talk about angels all day. And we've told people where to go and find them to look at them. And any other last messages from the angels before we say goodbye?
Love yourself. We do. We love you. You love yourself. Look after yourself. We do when you ask.
Beautiful. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sweetheart. That was delightful.
What a simply sublime conversation with the gorgeous Kayt Raymond. I hope you loved that as much as I did. We were chatting and catching up afterwards as well. Yes, Kayt and I met each other a long time ago and we lost contact. I don't know, it's so interesting. I'm thinking about 20 years ago, like the year 2000, and that couple of year period, I was working as an energy healer. I'm in my late 30s. I was working for the Academy of Light. I met so many people during that time that I kind of lost contact with over the years, and they're all coming back into my life right now. It's so weird. It's so beautiful. All these beautiful angelic healers and friends, and yeah, it's really strange. And I was just thinking the other day, it's amazing how many people I met during that time at the beginning of the 2000s. It's amazing how many people I met during that time. I suppose running the Academy of Light, putting on a speaker each week, and doing a meditation, you meet a lot of people, the people that came and also the speakers. So it's beautiful. Well connected. I'm well connected. I'm well connected in the angelic realm as well. Kayt gave me a beautiful angelic message after the show too, which I recorded, but that one's just for me. It was beautiful. It was beautiful. I love the angels. Don't you love the angels? I always want to cry. I was telling Kayt, I never cry over sadness anymore. Even when I try and cry over sadness, I find I can't sort of muster up the tears, but I will howl over something that moves me. And every time I'm with people like Kayt who really bring a crowd of angels, I just want to be crying the whole time because I feel so moved. The other day, a few weeks ago, I was watching a movie called The Green Book, which won an Academy Award about a African-American pianist in the 50s, 60s or 70s, I can't remember, but back away. And his story of employing a white, almost sort of gangsterish guy to drive him around as he did his concerts in the South of America. And it's such a beautiful book. It's such a beautiful movie. And at the end of it, my next door neighbor popped around. She's always baking me something. And I was in floods of tears. And she said, "Oh, what's the matter? What's wrong?" Because like in 4 or 5 years of living next door, she's never really seen me upset or cry over anything. And I said, "I just watched the most beautiful movie." And she's like, "Oh, is that all?" Anyway, yes, crying. I always cry when it's moving, when it's beautiful, but I can't sort of seem to muster up tears for sadness anymore. It's a beautiful thing. It's what happens when you raise your vibration. The tears still exist, but it's 12:12 here. Anyway, what am I going to say? I don't know. What else? We've got the Inner Sanctum. Oh, the Higher Self Expo is coming up. I'm sure if you watched the last show, you would have seen that. I'm doing that this weekend with Zane. Going to talk about a fifth dimensional reality. I've got lots to say. Look, I don't really know what I'm going to say. Zane's like, he had me on his Facebook Live and he's like, "What are you going to talk about during the Higher Self Expo?" And I'm like, "I don't know." I'm just going to show up and they're going to talk through me. But, you know, we have to have a bit of a sketchy outline so people actually show up to hear you talk. Like, what are you going to talk about? We're going to talk about what it is to live in a fifth dimensional reality. Yeah, and they'll have lots to say. I don't know exactly what they're going to say. Sometimes they give me the conversations. I'll have the conversations running in my head. And then I'll say, "Well, don't give it to me now. Give it to me at the time where I show up that I actually need it to speak it." So that'll be fun. But he's got lots of great people that are speaking. So it'll be fun. David being one of them, who was on our show, David Norman, the Pearl Consciousness. He lives in he is a fifth dimensional being. I tell you, that dude, that boy, that man. He very much lives the principle of what it is to be a fifth dimensional person. I was just telling Kayt, because I took David up to meet Kayt a few weeks ago, and she was just enamored by him, just delighted by his energy. And I said, he's always in gratitude. He's constantly saying thank you to everyone for everything. "Thank you so much, darling," or thank you so much. And in a genuine way, he's always in gratitude. Yeah, he's a fifth dimensional being, that one. So always be in gratitude, even when terrible things happen. Like he was driving down to see a healer a couple of weeks ago, and this guy rammed up the back of his car and smashed his car, which is not fun. And he had to get the car towed, had to get the train back. He didn't get the appointment. Like, lots of things went wrong. He was still in gratitude. He was amazed. You know, there was gratitude for that as well. Just always being in gratitude is a fifth dimensional energy. It's a quality of love which is so sublime. So thank you again for tuning in, and I love you all, and thanks again for sharing the shows. And spread the angels far and wide, and share Kayt's message, and remember to check out her website and have a look at her paintings. And yeah, we need to get those paintings out there. We need to get them on things so that people can buy them. Some products, some cards, some, I don't know, fridge magnets, places where we can share the love, because they're beautiful. I wanted to talk more about Angel Gain. I was so struck with Angel Gain when I saw him. And it's really not the when you look at these paintings, it's really not the skill of the painter that you're looking at. It is the energy, and it is the message that the paintings portray that is striking. So if you're looking at Rembrandt type painting skills, you're going to be disappointed. Her painting skills are pretty amazing, so articulate. But it's the energy that you're looking for, and the message in the painting that's really beautiful. I'm not going to say too much more. I'm going to go have a cup of tea. Thanks so much. I'll see you soon, and remember to buy the book Awakened by Death, and big love. Bye for now.